Hi, today we're going to be learning about multiplying and dividing algebraic fractions. We're going to start off by looking at the process that we need to follow when we multiply and divide algebraic fractions. The first thing you should do is remember that the numerator and the denominator of any fraction functions like brackets. So if there is any calculation that needs to be done in the numerator or the denominator of any of the fractions, you need to simplify that first. So if there's any addition, or if there's any subtraction, or if there's any brackets with exponents outside or anything like that in the numerator or the denominator of any of the fractions, you need to first simplify that before you can then go on and multiply the fractions together or divide the fractions. Okay, then if you are working with division, you then go and tip and times. Once you've tipped and times, simplify the coefficients, that's the numbers in front of the variables, by cancelling common factors. Now at this point you can also cancel out common variables as well, but I recommend actually just doing the coefficients first and then multiplying the numerators and denominators together, which means you then are combining the fractions all into one fraction, and then going and simplifying the variables. Because if you do the variables at the same time as doing the coefficients over here, it can actually get very confusing with having lots and lots and lots of cancelling going on and trying to see what is there and what isn't there anymore and so on. So it's actually easier when you're working with a lot of variables in multiple fractions. It's actually easier to first consolidate them all into one fraction and then go and simplify the variables. Okay, so let's go and have a look at an example where we're going to do this. In this example, we've got three fractions that are being multiplied and divided. In the middle one, you can see over here, we've got a bracket that needs to be squared as well. So let's take a look at how we would do this question. So the first thing I need to do in this question, I need to simplify that bracket that needs to be squared over there. So this fraction is not going to change for now. So I've got 24a squared b cubed c over negative 30 a to the power of 9 b to the power of 6 c. Okay, and that's being multiplied by this fraction. Now in this fraction, I've got a negative that's being squared, and when we square a negative, it becomes positive. Then 4 squared is 16. A to the power of 4 squared is a to the power of 4 times 2, which is 8. B cubed squared is b to the power of 3 times 2, which is 6. And then I've got c squared. And that goes over my denominator, which isn't going to change at the moment either. So I've got 18 a squared b to the power of 7 c to the power of 8. Then I'm also going to do my tipping and timesing now, so that I'm ready to do my multiplication and cancelling out in the next step. So I've got times, and this is going to change to negative 15 a to the power of 8 b to the power of 3 c over negative 12 a to the power of 9 b to the power of 7 c to the power of 8. Okay, so now that I've done my simplifying of the brackets that were being squared, and I've done my tipping and timesing, I can now go on to simplifying my coefficients. So for my coefficients, I'm going to be seeing what common factors I have and cancelling them out. But before I do that, I just want to quickly see what the sign is going to be. So I've got over here 1, 2, 3 negatives. When there are an odd number of negatives, it's going to be negative. So this is going to be negative over here. Now let's go and have a look at our coefficients. So with the coefficients, I've got 12 and 24. 12 goes in there once, 12 goes in there twice. I've also got 15 and 30. 15 goes in there once and 15 goes in there twice. And then these two 2's can cancel, giving me 1 and 1. And then the 16 and the 18 can cancel, giving me over here 2 goes into 16 8 times and 2 goes into 18 9 times. So I'm left, for my coefficients, I'm left with 1 and 8 and 1. That gives me 1 times 8 times 1 is 8. And 1 times 9 times 1 in the denominator gives me 9. So now I've simplified my coefficients. Now I'm going to go and multiply everything else that I've got in my numerators together. So the a squared times a to the power of 8 times a to the power of 8. Remember, when we are multiplying powers of the same base, we add the exponents. So it's 2 plus 8 plus 8. That gives me a to the power of 18. Then b to the power of 3 plus 6 plus 3 is b to the power of 12. And then c to the power of 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4. Okay, so all I'm doing now is just multiplying everything that I have in the numerator together. So all the powers of the same base, I add their exponents. And I do the same thing in the denominator as well. So a to the power of 9 plus 2 plus 9, that is a to the power of 20. Then b to the power of 6 plus 7 plus 7 is b to the power of 20 as well. And then c to the power of 1 plus 8 is 17. Okay, so now I have simplified and consolidated it all into one fraction. Now I'm going to go and simplify my variables. Okay, so you can check now as well at the same time to make sure that you did simplify your numbers as far as possible. The 8 and the 9, there are no common factors, so that they're going to stay as they are. Now I'm going to go and look at my a's. So I've got a to the power of 18 at the top, a to the power of 20 at the bottom. Remember, you're going to end up with your answer where there's more, where the exponent is higher. So I'm going to end up with my a's in the denominator. So these are going to cancel out, giving me 1. And this is going to cancel out, giving me a to the power of 20 minus 18, which is 2. B to the power of 12 over b to the power of 20. Again, the higher exponent is in the denominator. So this is going to cancel out completely. And this is going to give me b to the power of 20 minus 12, which is 8. And then my c's, c to the power of 4 over c to the power of 17. Again, the same thing. There's more in the denominator. So this is going to cancel out completely, giving me 1. And this gives me c to the power of 17 minus 4, which is 13. Okay, so I've got negative. And then 8 times 1 times 1 times 1 is just 8. Over 9 times a squared times b to the power of 8 times c to the power of 13. So I've got 9a squared, b to the power of 8, c to the power of 13. And that's what you should get for that example. Negative 8 over 9a squared, b to the power of 8, c to the power of 13. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a few that you're going to do for yourself. Here's the first one that you're going to do. Here you've got a fraction divided by another fraction and multiplied by another fraction. I'm going to give you 4 minutes to work on this question. Okay, so let's go through that question. Right, so the first thing I need to do is check to see if I have anything to do in the numerators or denominators that I need to simplify. In this example, we don't have, so we can go straight onto our tipping and timesing. Okay, so everything else is going to stay as it is for now. So this fraction, the first fraction, isn't going to change. Then I'm going to have times, and then this is going to tip over here. And then the third fraction isn't going to change. Okay. Then the next thing I need to do, once I have done my tipping and timesing, is I need to see what my sign is going to be, and then I'm going to do my coefficients. Okay, so my sign, I've got over here 1, 2, 3 minus signs. That means it's going to be negative because there's an odd number of negatives. Then for my coefficients, over here, 14 goes into 28 twice, and 14 goes into 42 3 times. Then 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 27 9 times. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 48 24 times. 9 goes into 9 once, and 9 goes into 18 twice. And then my 15 and my 24 I can simplify. 3 goes in here 5 times, and 3 goes in there 8 times. Okay, so I'm left over here with 5 times 1 times 1 in my numerator for my coefficients. And then 2 times 8 times 1 in my denominator, which is 16. Okay, now we're going to go and do our variables. So we're going to be multiplying all the variables in the numerators and multiplying all the variables in the denominators. Now remember, you could go and start cancelling out now and simplifying now, but I recommend rather just multiplying the top, multiplying the bottom, and then simplifying afterwards. Otherwise, with all the cancelling that you're going to do, it becomes very difficult to see what is actually going on, what is still there, what's been cancelled out, and so on. So that's why I recommend doing it this way. It makes it easier to actually see what's going on, and you're less likely to make mistakes. Okay, so I'm going to do my p's. I've got p to the power of 7 times p to the power of 6 times p to the power of 5. So that is p to the power of 7 plus 6 plus 5. When we're going to multiplying powers of the same base, we add the exponents. So 7 plus 6 plus 5 is 18. Then I have q to the power of 5 times q to the power of 7 times q to the power of 9. So it's 5 plus 7 plus 9, that is 21. And then I've got r to the power of 2 plus 8, which is 12. Okay, so in my numerator, I have 5, p to the power of 18, q to the power of 21, r to the power of 12. In my denominator, I've already got my 16. Then we're going to do our p's. There are no p's here, so I'm going to go over here. So I have p to the power of 2 times p to the power of 7. That's p to the power of 9. Then q to the power of 5 plus 1 plus 2 is 8. And then r to the power of 6 plus 7 plus 9 is 22. Okay, so now we're going to go and simplify our variables. So over here, for my p's, there are more in the numerator, which means the ones in the denominator are going to cancel, completely giving me 1. And in the numerator, I'm going to have p to the power of 18 minus 9, which is 9. Then my q's, again, there are more in the numerator. So in the denominator, they're going to cancel completely, giving me 1. And in the numerator, I have q to the power of 21 minus 8, which is 13. And then my r's, I have more in the denominator. So the numerator is going to cancel over there. And the denominator, I have r to the power of 22 minus 12, which is 10. Okay, so I'm left with over here negative 5 p to the power of 9, q to the power of 13 in my numerator. And in my denominator, I have 16 r to the power of 10. And that's what you should have got for question A. Okay, now we're going to go on to question B. In question B, you've got a fraction multiplied by another fraction, but you need to be careful. There are some things that you need to do in the numerator here and in the denominator here. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 minutes to do this question. Okay, so let's go through that question. Okay, so if you look in this fraction over here, I need to simplify these terms in the numerator, and in this fraction, I also need to do the same thing with these terms in the denominator. Please be careful, you cannot start cancelling things out until you have simplified where you have more than one term in the numerator or in the denominator. You have to first simplify those. So these are like terms, so we can simplify them. We are still going to learn what to do when you have terms that are not like terms, but for now, you're only going to be dealing with ones where they are like terms so that you can simplify them. Okay. So first I need to go and simplify these. I've got 2x squared y plus 3x squared y. That is 5x squared y over, the denominator is not changing, so 50x to the power of 8, y to the power of 4. And that is being multiplied by this fraction where I've got negative 20x to the power of 4, y to the power of 5. And then in my denominator, I've got 5x squared y minus 7x squared y. That gives me negative 2x squared y. Okay. So over here, I can now go and start doing my multiplication, where at first I'm going to look and see what my sign is going to be. So I've got two negatives, that's going to be positive, and then I'm going to go and simplify my coefficients. So over here, 5 goes in there once, 5 goes in there 10 times, then 2 goes in there 10 times, and 2 goes in there once, and then the 10s over here can cancel as well, giving me 1 and 1. So I've just got 1 at the top and 1 at the bottom. Now I don't need to write those ones because I'm also going to be writing variables at the top and the bottom. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to my variables. So I've got x squared times x to the power of 4, that's x to the power of 6, and y times y to the power of 5 is y to the power of 6. And then in my denominator, I've got x to the power of 8 times x squared, that's x to the power of 10, and y to the power of 4 times y, which is y to the power of 5. Okay. So now we're going to go and simplify our variables. So over here, there are more x's in the denominator. So this is going to cancel at the top over here, and this gives me x to the power of 10 minus 6, which is 4 in the denominator. And then there are more y's in the numerator. So the denominator is going to cancel over there, giving me 1. And this is going to give me y to the power of 6 minus 5, which is 1, which I don't need to write, so it's just y. Okay, so in my numerator, I've got 1y. Now, if everything had cancelled out in the numerator, I would need to write that 1. But because I still have a variable, I don't need to write the 1. So it's just going to be y. And in my denominator, I've got x to the power of 4 times 1. Again, if everything cancelled out in the denominator, it would be 1. But then I wouldn't need to write it because it's the denominator of the fraction. But in this case, everything didn't cancel. I've just got x to the power of 4. So that needs to go in the denominator over there. Okay, so that is what you should have got for question B. You should have got positive y over x to the power of 4. Okay, let's go on to question C. In question C, you've got a fraction divided by another fraction, but you need to be careful. There's quite a lot of stuff that you need to do before you can get onto the actual division. I'm going to give you 4 minutes for this question. Okay, so let's go through that question. So in the first fraction over here, I've got multiplication and addition in the numerator. BEDMAS says I have to do multiplication before I can do addition. So I need to do the multiplication here first, and then I will do the addition. And in the second fraction, I also have to do this addition over here as well. And then I'm also going to need to tip in times as well after that. So first I'm going to do my multiplication over here. So I've got 3a cubed. B to the power of 5 times b squared is b to the power of 7, and c times c cubed is c to the power of 4, plus 9a cubed, b to the power of 7, c to the power of 4. Now you can see over here, these are like terms, which means we'll be able to add them. Remember I said at the moment we'll only be having ones where they are like terms that you can simplify. We're still going to learn how to work with ones where you don't have like terms. And then the denominator is not going to change. And here I've got divided by, the numerator is not changing. In my denominator, I've got negative 4, a to the power of 8, b to the power of 4, c to the power of 5, plus 10, a to the power of 8, b to the power of 4, c to the power of 5. Again, those are like terms, so I can add them. So it's negative 4 plus 10 is 6, a to the power of 8, b to the power of 4, c to the power of 5. Okay. Now in my next step, I'm going to go and simplify this addition. So that's going to give me 3 plus 9 is 12, a to the power of 3, b to the power of 7, c to the power of 4, over my denominator that still isn't changing at the moment. And then I'm also going to tip in times now so that I'll be able to do my multiplication in the next step. So this is going to be 6, a to the power of 8, b to the power of 4, c to the power of 5, over 36, a to the power of 7, b to the power of 9, c squared. Okay. So now I'm going to go and look at what my sign is going to be. So I've got only one minus sign, so that's going to be negative. And then I can simplify my coefficients. So over here, 12 goes in here once, 12 goes in here 3 times. And then 3 goes in here once, and 3 goes in here twice. And then 2 goes in there once, and 2 goes in there twice. So everything in the numerator for my coefficients is cancelled. So I've got 1 times 1, which is just 1. And in my denominator, I've got 2 times 1, which is 2. So I'm not going to write the 1 in the numerator because I'm still going to write variables there. But in the denominator, I'm going to write that 2. And now let's go and multiply our variables together. So I've got a cubed times a to the power of 8 is a to the power of 11 in my numerator. And then b to the power of 7 times b to the power of 4 is b to the power of 11. And then c to the power of 4 times c to the power of 5 is c to the power of 9. In the denominator, I've got a to the power of 9 times a to the power of 7. That's a to the power of 16. Then b to the power of 3 times b to the power of 9 is b to the power of 12. And then c to the power of 9 times c to the power of 2 is c to the power of 11. Okay, now that I've done that, I can go and simplify my variables. Okay, so over here it's equals, it's still negative. My a's, I've got 11 at the top and 16 at the bottom. There's more in the denominator, so the ones at the top are going to cancel, giving me 1. And in the denominator, that's going to give me a to the power of 16 minus 11, which is 5. Then my b's, I've got b to the power of 11 over b to the power of 12, so that cancels on the top. And at the bottom, I have b to the power of 12 minus 11, which is 1, so that's just b. And then my c's, I've got c to the power of 9 over c to the power of 11. This cancels at the top. And at the bottom, I get c to the power of 11 minus 9, which is 2. Okay, so now in my numerator, everything has cancelled, but I can't just leave it out. I can't just leave it blank. I have to write 1 at the top over here. If it was the other way around, if it was the denominator where everything cancelled, then I wouldn't write the denominator at all. But because it's the numerator, I have to write the 1 in the numerator. Okay, and then in my denominator, I've got 2 a to the power of 5 b c squared. Okay, and that's what you should get for question C. Now we're going to go on to the last one for today, which is question D. In question D, you've got a fraction multiplied by another fraction. I'm going to give you 4 minutes to do this question. Okay, so let's go through this question. So in the first fraction over here, I've got brackets in the numerator that are being squared, but inside the brackets, I've got two terms that are being subtracted. These are like terms, so I can simplify them. And remember, BEDMAS says we have to do whatever is inside the brackets before we do exponents. And in the second fraction, I also have a bracket that is being cubed as well over there. Okay, so first I'm going to go and simplify these over here. So 2x squared y z to the power of 5 minus 8x squared y z to the power of 5. That gives me negative 6x squared y z to the power of 5. That still has to go in brackets because I still need to square it. Okay, the denominator isn't going to change at the moment. So that's going to be negative x cubed y to the power of 7 z to the power of 9. And that's being multiplied by the second fraction where the numerator is also not changing at the moment. Okay, now I have a choice in the denominator here. I can do this cubing now if I want to, or I can wait and do it at the same time as when I do the squaring over there. So I'm going to wait and I'm just going to do both exponents at the same time. But if you did it now already, that's fine. Okay, so in my next step, I'm now going to do the squaring. So when you have a negative that you're squaring, it becomes positive, and then 6 squared is 36. X squared squared is x to the power of 4. Then I have y squared, and then z to the power of 5 times 2, which is 10, over my denominator, which is still staying the same. Times, over here in my second fraction, my numerator is staying the same. It's a 7 over there. And in my denominator, I now need to go and cube this over here. So there's going to be a negative cubed. Remember, when you have a negative that's been raised to an odd power, it stays negative. So that's going to be negative, and then 3 cubed is 27. X to the power of 4 cubed is x to the power of 12. Y to the power of 5 cubed is y to the power of 15, and then z cubed. Okay, so now I need to go and find out what my sign is going to be. So I've got two negatives. That makes a positive. Okay, then I'm going to go and do my coefficients. So 9 goes in here 4 times, 9 goes in there 3 times, and then I can't simplify anything else for my coefficients. So it's going to be 4 times 10, which is 40, over 3. Then I'm going to go and multiply my variables together. So I've got x to the power of 4 times x cubed, that's x to the power of 7. Then y squared times y to the power of 7 is y to the power of 9. And then the z to the power of 10 isn't going to change. That goes over our denominator where we've got our 3. And then x cubed times x to the power of 12 is x to the power of 15. Y to the power of 7 times y to the power of 15 is y to the power of 22. And then z to the power of 9 times z to the power of 3 is z to the power of 12. Okay, now we're going to go and simplify our variables. Okay, so over here, there are more x's in the denominator, so this is going to cancel completely in the numerator, and that gives me x to the power of 15 minus 7, which is 8 in the denominator. The y's, there are also more in the denominator, so the numerator is going to cancel completely there. And this is going to be y to the power of 22 minus 9, which is 13. And then my z's, there are also more in the denominator, so the numerator is going to cancel, giving me 1, and my denominator is going to be z to the power of 12 minus 10, which is 2. Okay, so now I have in my numerator 40 times 1 times 1 times 1, that's 40. Over in my denominator, I have 3 x to the power of 8, y to the power of 13, z to the power of 2. And that's what you should have got for question D. And that is how we multiply and divide algebraic fractions. Now that we've learned the concepts in this lesson, it's important to practice, practice, practice. If you haven't already got the worksheet that goes with this video, you can find it by clicking on the link in the description below. The worksheet comes with an extra exercise full of questions for you to work on to master the concepts covered in this lesson. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button so that others can benefit from it too. Also, be sure to subscribe so that you can easily find my other lessons, and hit the bell so that you will get notified about lessons as I upload them.